episode of iBerkshiresTV. I'm your host, Jeff Sununian, and here are the recent top stories being reported by iBerkshires.com, your local news source. The city of North Adams wants to maintain the historical integrity of the Marquee and the Mohawk Theater. The city has owned the 80-year-old cinema since 1991, and the city council has held heated debates recently over the possibility of selling the building. The focus had been on restoring the Art Deco movie house as a performance venue to drive foot traffic to Main Street, but no work has been done in a decade. Mayor Thomas Bernard wants to give the private sector a chance at the vacant structure. The Community Development Committee is recommending that any request for proposals include that the Marquee, a Main Street icon, remains. The City Council votes on Tuesday night. Voters in the Central Berkshire Regional School District voted by a narrow margin to fund the building of a $72 million new school. The project has been years in the making and is estimated to cost the district $42 million after a state contribution. The vote passed with just 51% of the vote. Waucona could be the latest in a recent spate of high school building projects in the county over the last decade, starting with Adam Cheshire's Hoosick Valley in 2011 and continuing with the 2018 openings of Taconic and Pittsfield and Mount Greylock in Williamstown. Another proposed building project in the Berkshire Hills Regional School District was defeated by the voters in 2014. In Pittsfield, Fire Chief Robert Cherwinski will be retiring after the 4th of July parade this year. Cherwinski has been with the department for 32 years and served the last 9 as chief. He also chairs the Central Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee, the Statewide Emergency Response Committee, and the Hazmat Advisory Board for the Department of Fire Services. Adams Hometown Market opened to great fanfare on March 29th. The supermarket fills a void when Big Y announced it was closing. It took only 18 days for the Connecticut-based Adams Hometown Market to reopen the grocery and hire back many of the former employees. The Mount Greylock School Committee is in sticker shock after the construction costs for a multi-purpose building came in at $2.8 million, a $500,000 over budget. The building will house the district's central administration, athletic and maintenance equipment, and public restrooms. The project is being funded through a $5 million capital gift from Williams College, but officials had planned to use some of that money for the middle and high school's athletic fields and to put $1.5 million aside. Jeff Rogers completed his first week as the new executive director of the Berkshire Museum. Rogers arrives in the wake of the museum's controversial sale of some $53 million of its artwork to fund a, quote, new vision. Rogers said his goal at the moment is to just immerse himself in understanding the museum and the collection. Clarksburg officials are hoping to convince voters to approve a $1 million debt exclusion to pay for infrastructure needs of the town and the elementary school. Information sessions are being planned to explain to voters how the money will be used. The town of Adams wants to keep dog poop off the popular Ashwiltacook Rail Trail. The unsanitary eyesore has been a problem for years, and officials are now considering a $50 fine for those who do not pick up after their pets. Meanwhile, in Pittsfield, the city is again considering limits on curbside trash. Mayor Linda Tyre had proposed a toter system that would have limited households to 45 gallons of trash and 90 gallons of recycling. The city council rejected that plan, but would still like to restrict trash to reduce the city's cost for disposal. The latest proposal restricts trash to 64 gallons, but places only limited restrictions on how it should be placed on the curb. Some 70 people braved icy cold water at Bosque Ski Resort on March 31st to raise $25,000 for the Special Olympics. The annual polar plunge was moved from Minota Lake this year because of safety concerns. Officials from the Law Enforcement Torch Run, which organizes the polar plunge, believe that Bosque will continue to host the event. The money raised is going to athletes all over Berkshire County. The Berkshires dropped a spot in the health rankings of all Massachusetts counties. Berkshire County now ranks 13 out of 14 counties in health outcomes, according to a federal health report. The drop has alarmed local health officials. A collaboration of health organizations has formed the Community Health Initiative in an effort to systematically address those numbers. And it is spring, so spring sports have begun. The seasons for baseball, softball, track and field, and lacrosse began across the county this week. Last spring, the Berkshires had 2 teams win Western Mass titles, with Pittsfield's softball team and the Taconic baseball team taking the regional championships. In Pittsfield, Mayor Linda Tyre is still developing a program aimed to provide assistance for home improvement projects. After a brief break, we will welcome Mayor Tyre and iBerkshire's Pittsfield Bureau Chief Andy McKeever to tell you more about the program called at home.
I'm the guy who would fix everyone else's computer. And that gets old. That's not what I went to school for. I give it to someone else to handle, knowing that it's going to be reliably serviced, expediently. It's also done, I think, at a very fair price. If you are a business, especially a small business in need of IT support, consider Synajax.
Please welcome Mayor Linda Tyre to the show. How are you?
Hi, Andy. How you doing today?
Not too bad. So can you tell me, let's talk about the At Home at Pittsfield program. So
Sure.
What is it in a nutshell?
So in a nutshell, what we're proposing to do is to use $250,000 of the city's economic development fund to provide a resource for residents who are eligible to have access to funds for exterior repairs to their home. So we think, siding and windows and porch repairs and roofs. And we know that there are a lot of people in our city that have limited resources and can't qualify maybe for traditional financing through banks. So we wanted to partner with our local lenders and come up with a way to provide this resource. And it's important because what we know for sure is that neighborhood stabilization is an important component of economic development. And so we think we can make the case for why using the Economic Development Fund money is the right pot of money for this program.
So what issue is it trying to solve? What are you trying to address?
Right, so I've talked a lot about blighted conditions in our city, and we've done a lot of demolitions over the last few years. Part of our work with the code enforcement team is to do an assessment of housing stock in our neighborhoods, and we've got a list of about 100 problem properties that we've collected. And so that's an important aspect or important component of stabilizing neighborhoods is addressing vacancies and demolitions. But there has to be a more complementary program, which is to help people repair their houses before they are beyond repair. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that for most people, their home is their most valuable asset. It's an avenue to personal wealth. And so when they can't afford to repair their siding or install energy efficient windows, that impacts their personal wealth, but it also is a detriment to the quality of life in the neighborhood overall. It helps to improve the value of homes, it helps to secure a home and make it more livable, and so we're trying to tackle a number of issues with this program.
So exactly how does it work? How would it function?
So we initially proposed a concept that would include new homeowners and existing homeowners. And when we received some feedback from the City Council, we took the proposal back and we're still working on how we're going to go forward with it. We do intend to bring it back. And we've worked a little bit on how we might modify the program to respond to some of the concerns raised by the City Council. One thing we're not going to be able to do, though, is use free cash. And that was one of the concerns, or one of the questions raised. We've gotten opinion from the auditor that we can't use free cash for a program of this nature. So we're going to continue to put forward the Economic Development Fund money. And we still believe that Morningside and Westside ought to have a bit more access to the program than other parts of the city. A piece of interesting data that we collected is the value of homes in the Morningside and Westside versus the value of homes in the rest of the city. So the average value in Morningside and Westside is $101,000. The rest of the city, the average value is $193,000. So you can see right there that we have an area of our city that needs our attention maybe more than other parts of our city. So we're still putting together the final details to bring that back to the City Council.
Now, why are you targeting those two neighborhoods, especially since there's a lot of other housing programs and improvement programs out there, particularly for the lower income, and these are the lower income census tracts. So I guess why are you targeting with this program?
Thank you for that. There's really two reasons. So you're right. The Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program does help those really low-income families. Those funds come with a number of strings attached, like the amount that's available to them, or lead paint abatement, things that make it difficult for the resource to be maximized. What we're doing with this program is that we're expanding the eligibility requirements so that more people are eligible. So we're hitting a market that those people aren't eligible for block grant funds. And we know that there are plenty of people in the Morningside and West Side that own their homes that might not have mortgages, that have been there for 35 or 40 years. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing those needs. There are greater needs in those two neighborhoods, and we want to respond to that.
Okay, and you said you're planning on bringing this back to the City Council.
Yes.
The next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
April 24th, we will bring it back to the City Council, and hopefully we'll give a thorough presentation. We've made a few changes, I think, that are responsive to the great concerns raised. And one of the concerns is, leveling the playing field. And we just don't think there's a level playing field to begin with. And you can tell from just the values, the average values in those two neighborhoods versus the rest of the city automatically, that's not a level playing field.
All right, now let's switch on to another topic. You're talking about a feasibility study for internet. What is that? We are. So what we've done this year, every year when Senator Hines and Representative Farley-Bouvier begin working on the state budget, I asked them for some state assistance. And this year we've asked for a $50,000 allocation that would allow the city to conduct a feasibility study for whether or not the city of Pittsfield could become an internet service provider. And this is in response to the demand that we know is out there for broadband. And quite frankly, we're tired of waiting for the utilities and the cable companies to move on this issue. If we want to be competitive in a global economy, broadband is going to be vital to that. It's vital for the William Stanley Business Park. It's important for businesses downtown. And so we're going to see if we can take this on ourselves. And what we hope is that we will find that there is a market for and an interest in broadband, and that we can then become the hub for the county. So now the funding, you're asking the state, have they approved that, or is that going to be
So they're putting it forward now, and I know that Representative Farley-Bouvier and Mike Stebbin, who's our Chief Information Officer, have talked with other communities, such as Westfield, who have done a similar thing. And so we want to conduct a feasibility study to see if we can be the broadband internet service provider. So that's something to look forward to this coming year.
Yeah, great. And you're running for re-election. I guess what is looking forward? What are going to be some of the key issues you see in this election?
Sure. So I am running for re-election. This will be I'm seeking a second term. I think what we'll be doing in this election is talking about our record of accomplishment, which I think is significant. We've been able to do quite a few things to move the city forward and to make sure we're working for all the people of our city and planning and designing for our future. I think in the next term, we'll continue to be focused on economic development and how do we continue to strengthen the model that we've developed that's shown results, proven results. We will be talking about an Entrepreneurship for All program, which is an interesting sort of component to economic development. We're going to be talking about broadband. I think it'll be important to talk about our ongoing response to crime in our city. I know that continues to be a concern. And certainly we have a vision for what our next school building projects ought to be. And so those will be things among, I'm sure, others that people will raise, but those are the things that I hope to talk about.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's all the time we have. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Really
Good
appreciate
luck.
it.
Good luck on this pilot. I hope it's very successful.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm Derek Doobie from KM Toyota. We are celebrating our 56th year with Toyota, and we'd like to thank you, our customers, for your continued patronage over the years. We'd also like to extend an invitation to all other Toyota owners or future owners to give us an opportunity to earn your business. We're competitive on our prices, respectful of your time, understanding of your needs, and honest and direct when it comes to discussing your vehicle. Whether it's in sales or service, we pride ourselves on making your experience with us the most comfortable and pleasant one possible.
Greetings, Berkshire County, and welcome to the business segment of the iBerkshire News. I'm joined today by two lifelong Berkshire residents. We have Dave Nicholas here from Bounty Fair Restaurant on Curran Highway in Adams, right on the North Adams line. And we have Dave Bazillion from Smith Brothers McAndrews Insurance on Park Street in Adams. This is the first one of these, first one of hopefully several we'll be doing. And I thought it was important to have you two guys on because you are lifelong Berkshire County guys. You've done business here. Dave, you've been involved in many restaurants. You've been at Bounty Fair for how long now?
I bought it in 2002.
17 years. Wow. That makes me feel awfully old.
Me too.
And although you just took over at Smith Brothers McAndrews, Dave,
Yep.
You've been in the insurance business for
25 out of the last 30 years.
25. For a few years, you did at the, back then known as the Berkshire Chamber of Commerce.
I did. Had a 5-year stint at the Chamber, which was wonderful.
So you guys have seen it all. You've seen the heyday of Sprague Electric, Hunter Machine, GE,
Indeed.
to where we are now, a little smaller Berkshire County. So I wanted to talk to the both of you and maybe the challenges of doing business today as opposed to maybe 15 or 20 years ago. But first off, we'll start with you, Dave. Why cooking? Just a little background information on you.
It's funny. I went to Taconic High School in the drafting program, and then realized that I didn't want to sit at a desk for the rest of my life. So
I don't blame you.
wound up when I was in high school. I wound up getting a job as a dishwasher at La Casina here in Pittsfield. It was down on Wacona Street, and that's where I started my restaurant career as a pot slinger, and from there.
I know I once asked you where you learned how to cook, and your answer was the kitchen, which was a funny answer,
pretty
but
much
also
self-taught.
true.
Yeah, a lot of it's self-taught. I did go to BCC for their hotel restaurant management program, but actually wound up buying my first restaurant before I graduated down in Stockbridge, and then from there we went to up north and opened up Gringos and had that for 18 years, and then bought the Bounty Fair in 2002. Bounty Fair's been there for 50, 60 years. It was called the Midway before that, so all of our parents and grandparents actually used to go to this place. So
It's I love places that have been around forever, and this speaks, Dave, to Smith Brothers McAndrews as well. You've recently taken over from Bernie Pincenalt, who was there for many years. Yep. Before Bernie was...
Yeah, it's a long history. In fact, the agency actually opened the same year the Olympics started in 1896. Two brothers, Peter and Fred Smith, the Smith brothers, and actually one was a Republican and one was a Democrat. Imagine trying to do that these days. They opened Smith Brothers McAndrews, Smith Brothers, and ran it for about 40 years, sold it to a couple of other gentlemen. In the meantime, former State Senator Jim McAndrews opened up the McAndrews Agency in 1937, and then his nephew Michael took it over, and in 1962 the agencies came together, and then after Mike, his son Bruce, and then Bernie Pincenalt for 27 years, and now I joined the agency 7 years ago, and Bernie retired at the end of 2018, and I've got the good fortune to continue this great small town insurance agency right on Park Street in Adams. So pretty exciting and a great history.
It's and I wanted to spotlight today how important I think it is to do business locally. These two are connected not only through years of friendship. I know Dave is a customer at the Bounty Fair and vice versa at Smith Brothers McAndrews. But on February 25th, 2017. Covered by iBerkshires, by the way. There was a nasty storm. During business hours.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there appeared to be large sections of the roof coming off the building.
Yes.
It wasn't exactly a Wizard of Oz type situation where the whole thing folded over.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So that night, you probably had... I know Dave was there, you're a local insurance agent, and up on the roof you probably had people representing 2 or 3 different contractors in the immediate aftermath of it, sealing everything up. Is that correct?
That is correct. It was absolutely amazing, and
within an hour.
And quite a testament to just community involvement up there, quite honestly. It happened around 7 o'clock, and I was still open for business. And what happened is literally my entire roof on one half came off. I was upstairs in my apartment, and I heard it. So, having said that, I went downstairs and saw half of my roof on like 4 or 5 different cars in the front parking lot. Not only did my lounge, restaurant, people finished eating and they left, but at that point, it actually started getting busier from all of these other people, all these contractors, electricians, friends, family, my insurance guy. They're literally, everybody heard that, you know, on social media that this had happened, and literally my restaurant started filling up with people that wanted to help. And we really couldn't do anything because as the storm came through, so did the lightning storm. So we literally just had to sit there and watch this jungle waterfall falling in my apartment and downstairs in the lounge. So we just kind of all waited. TJ Rotolo showed up with his trailer and started giving orders. You know, you go to Walmart.
I got a couple orders, yeah.
You got a couple of orders. You go get some screw guns. You go buy Walmart out of all of the, what do you call them? Tarps, yeah, that you do. So we literally had to wait there for an hour. And then all of a sudden there was about 20 people on my roof putting down a tarp. It was crazy.
I feel safe to say, I feel very confident in saying that in the immediate aftermath of this whole thing, doing business with somebody not so local, or maybe somebody online, or somebody, this would not have happened. Now, once the insurance kicks in, Dave, you know your job. Everything takes time. But as far as the beginning to end of it, you doing business locally.
Online insurance company was not going to be there.
Was not going to do it.
David was there.
David was there.
Yeah,
instantly.
I was, you know, it was during business hours, but it was also, you know, 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I wasn't having dinner there that night, but I was at a 50th birthday party for a friend, and I get a call, and I'll never forget it, and Dave said, geez, my roof just blew off, and I'm not really sure what I should do next. So I said, well.
I've never had a claim. I didn't know what to do.
So I went.
I don't know if any of us knew what to do.
No, I went down, and again, my role was fairly limited in terms of, hey, calling the insurance company, letting them know. But for the most part, it was, hey, prevent further damage. But I think part of the bigger story, and we were happy to help out, and you know, we worked together in the next few months to get things squared away. But really, I think because of the work that Dave does in the community, lots of fundraisers, lots of spaghetti dinners. He does a lot of things for the community, that this was the chance for folks in the community to show up and to help Dave. And there couldn't have been a better example of that than that night. So,
absolutely.
You know, it was a testament to him, but you know, the real heroes were those guys who literally got up on that roof and came through. So it was a great story, and like I say, you know.
And I think lastly, that's the other thing, the both of you, it was important to have you on today as business owners in Berkshire County. But you were recently awarded by Kids Place for the work you do there, and I'm not going to get into it, but this is me bragging about you guys. This is okay. Dave, you were with the ACE Foundation for years. I think you're with United Way. This is all part of doing business local in Berkshire County. We don't ask that you buy every meal at Bounty Fair, and we certainly don't ask that you buy all your insurance at Smith Brothers McAndrew.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
They might. I can't. But when you do go out to eat, when you do get your insurance, please consider local guys first, because it pays off in the end. Dave, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, I want to thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Jeff.
And this has been Jeff Sununian for iBerkshire News.